Hey neighbor, welcome back to ARTV. You know what this is. It's another episode of I Got It Wrong, fresh out of the oven, where I catch myself in stunning 4K resolution, admitting fault, bias, or maybe just the changing of opinions on an album I reviewed years ago. Canadian hitmaker Justin Bieber is up for discussion today. Not his personal life and the complicated conversation that could come with that rabbit hole, more like a credit where it's due type of thing. So let's rewind to a time before the freedom, before the justice, hell, even before the changes. Here's my shot at redemption for Bieber's fourth studio album, Purpose. Bieber has largely dominated the pop conversation for over a decade as he rose from the ashes of teeny bopper to become troubled man-child.
I wasn't trying!
Yet his music career kept rolling along with millions of adoring fans believing every moment they had to wait for new music would totally be worth it, and to my surprise, they were actually right.
What's up guys, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the fourth full-length studio album by Canadian singer Justin Bieber. I've never reviewed one of his albums before.
I said it there myself, I'd never tried to review the Biebs until Purpose, so my inexperience, despite being extremely familiar with who he was, probably hurt my ability to keep it objective, or at the very least mainly about the music.
Do I agree with his behavior? Absolutely not. He presents himself as kind of an asshole whenever you see him in videos.
It wasn't a review to be embarrassed about, I just don't think I really justified or backed up my thoughts as to why I felt it was a 3, outside of a few passing shots at calling it generic, which isn't inherently unfair, it's just that there's a decent amount of groove, poise, and thoughtfulness to the way it all plays out that I didn't exactly praise or get the first time around. Pooling the production treasure chest of Skrillex, Pooh Bear, Benny Blanco, and Blood Pop really elevated Bieber's vibe big time. Above anything else, this album is just really easy on the ears as it's sugar-coated with dance pop and EDM, but toasted with classic R&B grooves. Justin might not always be the most creative writer, but his laid-back vocal approach makes this feel really pleasant, cozy even, like walking into a cabin you come back to every year so it's kinda like a second home. One minute you're chilling big time with light 808s syncopating the rhythm, the next you're on top of the world with some really resilient hit singles that keep defying gravity years after the initial hype faded away. Look into the stories of all these child stars that blew up young and couldn't keep the jetpack flying as they aged out. It happens all the time. Bieber won the game against the forces of nature that ground 90% of famous teens before they hit 20. Not to defend most of his post-teenager stuff, but Purpose lives on as this weird flicker of light that gave him the comfort to speak his mind on record without completely drowning in self-pity. Purpose is pretty great by pop album standards. The stereotype is that pop stars stockpile singles ammunition, but totally shit the bed in the deep cuts, which makes it even more interesting to me that some of the biggest highlights on this record come in the non-singles, including some A-lister collabs with Halsey and Travis Scott. I think another major strength for Purpose is those collaborators, not just the guest vocalists, but the team all around him. It's a wide-ranging group of people that push Justin to be his best and really go for that tropical sound that's aged a lot better than many people, including me, thought it would. 13 songs over 48 minutes moves nicely without any major speed bumps, mainly just some boring run-of-the-mill tracks that don't play nice when it comes to actually keeping your undivided attention. I don't know, it's kinda hard to explain. I don't think the intentions were bad when Justin tries to pull out the whole motivational slow ballad routine, or when he hands out relationship advice no one asked for, but for a superstar who routinely made headlines for being out of touch, Purpose checks that shit at the studio door and remains pretty sincere throughout. What do you mean did its job as a lead single by generating enough buzz to make even Lightyear fly?
This is falling with style.
And if you wonder why people spit out the word tropical so often when talking about this album, knock knock, listen up and tell me you're not picturing a Paradise Beach sunset. It holds up as a low-key smash. There's a light purr to those synthesized beats that make it worth coming back to, but it's not even close to being the best of the 4 singles. And no, I'm not about to crown Love Yourself as the king. We've probably all heard that one a few too many times to care by now, but for the love of Bieber fever, put some respect on Sorry and Company. The light flurry of tropical soaked horns swirling into airy synths is a super aesthetically pleasing sound for the album's biggest smash, produced by none other than Skrillex and Blood Pop. Sorry is the perfect pop song. It's innocuous but provocative, and even though it is worthy of the attention it got, I cannot for the life of me figure out why Company wasn't a massive worldwide KO. This is Bieber's best song, hands down. The bass groove is damn sexy, Justin's voice is playful in the romantic ebb and flow of the chemistry, everything's in place on this ear candy magnet, yet it only managed number 53 on the US Hot 100. Big Sean co-stars on No Pressure, which is a great reminder of what a guest feature should be. Bieber is the center of attention and carries the song, backed by a gentle guitar loop atmosphere that gives off the feeling of sitting by a river in the fall. Big Sean comes in sounding kinda corny but not unbearable with his rap verse, which is why I think it works better than expected as a feature because you remember his verse and maybe a few specific bars, but there's no doubt that Justin carries this thing on his back. It's his song. There are songs that I still struggle to connect with, namely the sappy Life is Worth Living, like I hinted at earlier, alongside Children, that gets a little bit too hyper for its own good. The reason Purpose generally pops off is that the producers are bending their sound to benefit Justin, whereas Children feels more like a guest feature, like he did with Cold Water, and of course, the very aggravating Where Are You Now? Yep, that Jack U track is on the standard album, and we've got to talk about it since I'm sure some of you are curious. Has it grown on me? 2021 update, it hasn't. Not really. The verses are okay, Justin's a little whiny and melodramatic, but it's not a huge turnoff. It's that boring-ass dated drop that never evolves or shapes up to be anything other than a pitchy, glitchy, bitchy disaster that has no right to extend this into a 4-minute track. 3 problems out of 13 songs ain't so bad though, and if we're moving back over to the must-hears, I gotta plug 3 more songs to even out the positive mojo that I just accidentally tossed off of a cliff. We'll start slow and turn up the heat, but first is the title track Purpose that effectively closes out the album. Bieber nailed this piano ballad as he lets his voice shine bright, and while I initially criticized the speech at the end,
Purpose seems okay enough until we get to the speech at the end, which just kinda ruins it for me.
I don't really have anything against it now. It's fine. Props for the attempt at sincerity, even though I'm not totally convinced that it was anything other than a PR stunt to try and repair his fractured image. Halsey gels effectively with Justin on The Feeling, which is immensely catchy, and the amount of vocal swaps throughout make this feel like a breath of fresh air, leaving only one last song for me to dive into, and that's I'll Show You. I was taken back by it as soon as I heard it, and honestly, I think this is the song that made me want to take Bieber's music more seriously. He offers us a window into the world of fame with a story unlike anyone else's. It's Justin Bieber, Kid Raoul, a young boy with a guitar blowing up in the early days of YouTube and getting put on the pedestal that he never really asked for. It doesn't excuse his actions, but to a degree, the older I get, I do have some empathy because God knows how terrible I would have turned out had I been surrounded by yes men telling me that I basically walk on water every day for years. I'll Show You stops short of the full-on pity party, but it does generate a heightened level of emotion. And if you don't care about any of that, fine. Enjoy the amazing buttery smooth drop and drool over the production because God knows it's deserving of it. Revisiting Bieber's 4th album proved to be a solid time as I weighed out the pros and the cons and realized that I have a lot of love for an album that I probably liked way more than I wanted to admit even back in 2015 because there was still such a leftover stigma from high school, like I was supposed to use this dude as a punching bag, I'm supposed to hate his music. Older, wiser me is honest with himself and avoids the album changes like the plague, but also gives praise to Purpose for conquering what many thought Justin would never do, and that's making a cohesive body of work that doesn't implode the second you take a closer look. My updated rating is a strong 4 out of 5. It's something that I personally catch a really good vibe from, and it's got some massive bangers that I've had in rotation for way too long to ignore. I really like the instrumentals and the way that everything sounds with really smoothed out and snappy earwormy hooks for days. It's Justin's best work for sure, and it's a sound and attitude I hope he comes back to in the future. Question time! Which review of mine did you agree with more? You can see the original on screen now, but hit the comments down below and let me know what's your current day take on Purpose. Did it grow on you? Do you still have the same feelings that you did years ago? Do you need to revisit it and get back to me? I'm super curious to hear what you guys think on this one, but anyways, thank you for watching. Give me a follow on Instagram at ARTV John, drop a like to feed the algorithm, and stay tuned for future episodes of I Got It Wrong.